What's up everyone, it's Dr. Hippo time. And recently FCC has released its newest episode, Shadow vs. Zero. And I wanted to talk about it, but not only will I talk about that episode, I will be talking about all of the episodes that have Mega Man or Sonic characters. Those being Bass vs. Metal Sonic, Mega Man vs. Pacman, Zero vs. Fulgore, Koopalings vs. Robot Masters, Mega Man vs. Robotboy, Bass vs. Metal Sonic 2 and Zero vs. Shadow. I'll probably put timestamps in the description if anyone wants to skip to a specific episode, because I know so many people want to hear my thoughts on Pacman vs. Megaman. With that very lame introduction out of the way, let's begin with.
Talk about a low budget flight!
This is one that you can easily tell is a season 1 episode. And I don't exactly mean that in a positive or negative way. It's just something that is very noticeable. I also want to say that I have different standards for these episodes compared to seasons 2 or 3. Let's start with the analysis. I thought the research was mostly pretty good. The editing wasn't particularly noteworthy because at the time most editing was just more or less a slideshow of images of the characters, with the occasional stat or clip. Another small complaint is that I thought it was a little weird not having Metal Overlord included for Metal Sonic in the episode. Glad they fixed that in the rematch. But the main thing I want to talk about for this episode is the animation. And I wanted to say that even today, I think it's fairly decent. The sprites between them at the beginning clash very hard but is fixed when Super Bass comes in. I think the action is fun and the animation is mostly pretty smooth. Mostly. Metal Sonic and Bass had some pretty decent lines. Also the transformation from Bass to Super Bass looks pretty nice. But the death is super underwhelming. Overall I'd give this episode a 5 out of 10. A pretty good season 1 episode. Now let's move on to the next episode which everyone was very positive about.
Pacman's a bad guy?
Again, like Bass vs. Metal Sonic, the analysis and conclusion were fine with it mostly just being a slideshow of images. So I wanna just focus on the animation for this one, and how about we just talk about the positives real quick. I like the transformation for Pacman. I like the KO screen. And I like how many powers Mega Man uses. And that's kind of about it. Both of their sprites are really blurry and you can still see the green screen and white backgrounds on them. I genuinely don't know what Mega Man is doing in this part. The transition from the square screen to widescreen is super jarring. I can see why people weren't particularly excited for me to review for the episode. Definitely one of the lower points of the season. But the decent analysis and conclusion, and some parts of the animation land this episode for me to a 3 out of 10. I'm really glad the animator has gone on to do much better things like Boros vs. Deoxys and Zero vs. Shadow. He's also a really cool guy, so I totally recommend his channel, which you all should be subscribing to. But this isn't about Sun Mellows, this is about FCC, and the next episode to be reviewed is
Combo Breaker!
What's with all of these Mega Man fights? Hope this doesn't become a trend. Anyways, this episode actually does something different from the past 2. Actual footage for the analysis. Really, that's all that's different between this and Bass vs. Metal Sonic. Both have a decent analysis and conclusion and good animation. For the animation I like that it's fast paced and fun. I also really like the killer did have some really good tension between them running at each other. I would have liked a little more animation of just them fighting, but this is definitely a highlight of the season for me. I'm giving this a 7 out of 10. The only major thing I have with the episode is that it should have been Mega Man vs. Fulgore SMH Demon. This is the first and only team fight in FCC, and that already made it really special. I thought the analysis and conclusion were very in-depth and well made, especially the editing, which was very good. But the real highlight of the episode was the animation, which was amazing. All of the animators brought their A game and it shows. Every fight looks great with some very creative action. I like how they chose for a collaboration style for this matchup because it really fits. I have no real major complaints with the animation. It was just a lot of fun that I really liked a lot. Kinda funny how the longest episode has one of the shortest review. I'm gonna give this a 9 out of 10. I really like this episode a lot. Definitely one of my favorites of all time. A real highlight of the series.
Alright, I've been thinking. When life gives you lemons, don't make lemonade. Make life take the lemons back. Get mad! I don't want your damn lemons! What am I supposed to do with these?
This is a really good episode. The analysis and conclusion were very well done, with the research being really good and the editing was great. Both kept me very entertained throughout the whole episode. The animation is also pretty good, however I do have some small complaints. I think the part with Astro Boy in the beginning is confusing and a little weird. Megaman uses less abilities against Robotboy than Pacman, which isn't a big complaint, I just think it's a little weird. I think it's weird when Robotboy goes super when he's winning the fight, like he hasn't been doing bad in the fight at all so far and he just decides to go super for no reason. Other than those, I think this is a very solid animation. You can tell there weren't many sprites for Robotboy, but Spider Sora did as best as he could and still managed to make it look good. I gotta give props to him for that. Good job, but overall this was just a really good episode. I have small complaints but it's just a really fun time. I give this episode an 8 out of 10. A very good time that I would recommend to anyone.
Gee, thanks Brace for receiving that rock for me. Totally didn't cause an arm and have a seed being blown up. Gee!
What a step up from the original. This episode has a great analysis and conclusion that I enjoy a lot. This episode probably has one of, if not my favorite animation from an FCC. Just absolutely spectacular how hard Huan went on this. The voice acting is also great, especially Nemesis's bass. The animation is so smooth and visually pleasing to look at. The animation uses nearly everything both characters have, which makes this fight feel really special. I also found the parts with Eggman and Willy were also very funny and a fun distraction from the serious fight. The death was also great. This is one of my favorite episodes of the series, which is why I give it the rare 10 out of 10. I have nothing wrong with the episode. Just an absolutely spectacular fun time. Hopefully Zero vs Shadow can outdo it, which is a huge task, but I believe Demon and the gang can do it.
The desert. Count how many sand is here, Omega. That's your first mission.
What an amazing episode. 2 bangers from Nemesis in a row. You love to see it. Let's start with the analysis, and this possibly might be my favorite analysis segment of an FCC. All the jokes landed and the editing was spectacular. Archer and Sun Mellows did a fantastic job editing this episode. It even has the funny Minecraft explosion, my favorite thing. Only complaint is that you trash on my boy Silver. First speed off sound Sonic, then Silver, SMH Demon SMH. Now let's talk about the animation. God, what a spectacular looking fight. Zero has such smooth looking sprites and Shadow looks great as well. The action was very fast paced and fun. Pretty much everything I liked from Zero vs Fulgore just maxed out to 100. The death was also great and brutal. If I had one complaint with the animation, it's that I wished Super Shadow was used. They explained that Zero would have killed Shadow before he could have gone super, but I just think the animation would have been cooler with him. It really wasn't a huge thing. I just think it would have been a cool extra thing. And the conclusion was pretty good as well. Sun Mellows and Archer absolutely nailed the editing for the episode. Massive props to them. Overall, I would give this episode a really high 9 out of 10. Just an absolutely spectacular episode. Now for the next time, I'm extremely excited, but who's this fucking idiot on the editing team? Oh wait.